Envision being caught in a dull and cold cavern, not knowing where you are, a dim and crisp spot, with the main organization being the dormant body of a companion. Well, this all occurred around a long time back in the Cov de la Rate, Local A in Spain. Ricard and Denisio, two brave companions who cherished investigating, went on a truly extreme excursion. They had no clue about the risks sitting tight for them. This is Lethal Misfortunes, with the narrative of Ricard and Denisio. Priorities: straight the cavern of Cova de la Reta. Cova de la Reta is a limestone cave toward the beginning of the day. Region: estimating around 262 ft long. It's a most loved spot for submerged photography devotees and draws in numerous jumpers in light of its openness and clear perceivability. Local people frequently pick it as a typical plunge site. After arriving at the area, the plunge starts, and you'll go on for another 64 to 196 ft along the sea base until you find the entry mouth. The entry slips around 33 ft beneath the ocean surface. The opening is roughly 8 ft wide, prompting a rising conductor loaded up with stones arriving at up to 13 ft. The cavern stretches out to a profundity of around 131 ft, regularly reasonable for experienced jumpers, notwithstanding its standing as an apparently simple plunge. Cov de la Reta holds a puzzling mystery that has enthralled master jumpers. Towards the finish of the cavern, there's a more modest opening that prompts a dinky depression, makes it really charming that, as of not long ago, nobody has effectively explored through this opening. Its indefinite quality combined with the eccentric perceivability, relying upon ocean conditions as a component of challenge and persona for very some time, this cavern stayed a secret guide known exclusively to a select gathering of jumpers investigating the enthralling shore of Lisa's Express. The neglected entry at the cavern's end adds a quality of experience and the obscure, making it an enticing secret for those daring to the point of plunging into its profundities. However, the cavern couldn't remain confidential for a really long time, particularly when the sun illuminated the blue waters, making their bold hearts shimmer. On a Saturday morning, July 19, 2014, four companions cruised from Leeport. Their fellowship and energy for investigating pushed them toward the enrapturing excellence of Commander Labari, an astounding precipice shaped when the Metis Islands split away from the central area millennia prior. Much to their dismay, what looked for them in front of their investigation, the plunge starts under the water. There was a precarious labyrinth of caverns made by the very powers that formed the enormous bluff. Not frightened of the potential risks, three companions, raw Denisio, with another companion whose name we don't know, prepared with their plunging gear. They were eager to investigate the privileged insights. Submerged simultaneously, the fourth companions kept awake above, keeping a nearby eye to ensure they remained protected during this striking experience. With next to no ropes or obvious indicators to direct them, the daring triplet swam all through various submerged buckles. Each cavern had its own unique excellence, loaded up with flawlessly designed rocks and an assortment of ocean animals. Among their revelations, they coincidentally found the entry of the Cova de la Reta, otherwise called the Cavern of the Lobsters. The entry went around 33 underneath the ocean surface, enticing them to investigate further, assuming it was a film scene. This is the spot you wish to tell the entertainer not to go that way. Lit by their electric lamps, Ricard, Denisio, and their plunging companion wandered 148 ft into the underground submerged stretch of the Arquette's cavern. This piece of the cavern was known for lobsters, procuring it the subsequent name. Yet, as the rough part finished the cave's surface, transformed it, moved from rock to dirt, prompting a tight, neglected region. Their companion started to feel terrified. Through hand signals, he made it clear he needed to return up. Regarding his choice, Ricard and Denisio comprehended and concurred. However, much to their dismay, the going on without him would be a deadly misstep. Lost in murkiness, Ricard and Denisio continued swimming, covering an extra 115 ft along the ocean floor. Yet with each kick of their flippers, the water got cloudier. In spite of the diminishing perceivability, not set in stone, to continue to investigate. When they hit 262 ft, the two of them concurred the time had come to end their jump. Anyway, a startling test looked for them. The sediment in their water made them lose their internal compass totally. Their development worked up the residue, transforming the water into a dinky dimness. Much to their dismay, the way they took made a thick haze of sloppy water, framing a confounding dark wall behind them. The manner in which they came was presently Secret enveloped by a dull and hazy wreck, with next to no visual signs, Ricard and Denisio ended up in a predicament with no undeniable way out. The circumstance deteriorated as they understood their air supply was running basically low in their jumping tanks there. Look for an exit transformed into a test of skill and endurance. Right when things appeared to be distressing, they saw a small break in the roof over a weak gleam of light, crested through, enticing them to investigate. Powered by urgency and assurance, they swam toward the break, their hearts dashing in a striking move. Our watch, and Denisio faced an unsafe challenge, choosing to just barely get through the obscure break uninformed about where it could lead them. The wonderful departure, the tight entry squeezed against their chests and backs as they moved forward with each inch acquired the trepidation of a potential impasse, shutting in, fixing their destiny by suffocation, weighed vigorously on the two. The section calculated upwards towards the surface, around 262 through from the cavern entry, and drove them to an underground lake, a pocket of air, as though it had been sitting tight for them for a really long time. Removing their hardware, Ricard and Denisio, with their heads out of the water and bodies mostly lowered, felt like they had recently beaten the grave. They took the risk to commend their wonderful break, catching the unimaginable new development in 2 or 3 photographs. One picture showed Ricard, his face loaded up with a blend of help and fervor. The other accomplishment include Denisio, his demeanor a blend of appreciation and incredulity, and the startling turn that anticipated the gas salvage jumpers who might find them alive. Ricard and Denisio found comfort from a recharged perspective of humor as time elapsed. Stress developed among Ricard and Denisio's companions on a superficial level. The GU of larded group liable for getting open water swimmers and skipper Cruz was on the job that morning around 11 a.m. A trouble call arrived at the group from the concerned companions of Ricardo. Denisio. Corporal Fernando Aguirre, the gas bunch pioneer, immediately coordinated the group for a pressing return excursion to the plunge side before dusk. However, they had little expectation. They understood that at this point that the Aaron, Ricard and Denisio's chambers would probably have run out, prompting a heartbreaking, suffocating unbeknown to those on a superficial level. Ricard and Denisio were as yet caught inside the air pocket. They had found the air pocket around 322 foft in size and 4.9 feet 80 felt like a shelter amidst their experience. It held a significant measure of air, assessed to be around 1,236 cubic feet anyway. The delayed stay inside the restricted space had serious results. Demise, why, you ask? Well, breathing vital as it was continuously filled the restricted airspace with carbon dioxide, quietly and guilefully harming Ricard and Denisio. Inside the shelter that they looked for, unbeknown to them, the undetectable gas risked their endurance as time elapsed. The rising degrees of CO2 in the air pocket took its lick. Cost. The once nurturing oxygen was supplanted by this poisonous side effect, influencing their mental and actual capabilities. Ricard and Denisio, understanding the peril, felt the slippery impacts impeding their capacities as time wore on. Their situation turned out to be all the more critical. Hydration, confusion, and hypothermia weighed vigorously on their debilitated bodies. Ricard especially endured the worst part of the carbon dioxide, encountering its effect seriously. Their once dynamic spirits blurred, supplanted by a solemn renunciation to their horrid destiny. In their battle, Ricard's solidarity dwindled, making it harder to remain over the water. Denisio, gathering each ounce of solidarity, figured out how to pull Ricard's practically dormant body back over the surface, battling against the approaching destruction. 5 horrendous hours passed, taking a gay, annihilating toll on Ricard and Denisio. With no air left in their tanks, and the sediment-laden freezing water, the air pocket that once supported them turned into their quiet killer. Mental and actual loss of motion set in, delivering them vulnerable. Ricard's debilitated body slipped into the water again, unchangeable as far as he might be concerned. In a tragic second, Denisio, depleted of solidarity, can look as his companion's dormant body sank alone, and with no energy left to remain above water. Denisio is sure that he would pass on too. At 5 p.m. a Gaia group drove by. Corporal AAR entered the cavern with an individual jumper. With assurance they wandered into the difficult and rough landscape, swimming 148 ft. Moved by the persevering quest for tracking down R and Denisio, their advancement was suddenly ended as they experienced the dim result of the casualty's mad departure. Twirling residue clouding their vision, the corporal initiated the Guardia Civil's public speleo, jumping bunch planning for the salvage scholars, plunging focuses, submerged picture takers, and anglers were called. However, their insight into the cavern was restricted. The pursuit continued on Sunday, with barely any chance of finding them alive. Experts from everywhere the locales showed up in the early morning to help. The episode became public drawing in many columnists on the subsequent day. They followed the line set up by the corporal and his accomplice from the port. The initial two jumpers arrived at the Earth region, with further developed perceivability. After the mud settled during the night, the fissure where Ricard and Denisio had escaped was noticeable. The jumper who entered first understood. Pivoting was conceivable because of the restriction continuing forward. He arrived at the air pocket where Ricard and Denisio were found, and that underground lake. The common gatekeeper's electric lamp uncovered Ricard's dormant body drifting in his neoprene suit, and Denisio sticking to the stone, producing a groan of distress as he breathed out his final gasp. An inexplicable survivor. Denisio, completely staggered, was muddled, got dried out, hypothermic and breathing intensely. He would not wear air gear, so the salvage jumper needed to direct oxygen by purging a few jugs before his face. Welcomed on different excursions, isotonic beverages followed, yet persuading him to follow and lower again. Demonstrated testing. Denisio mistook and knew for the environmental factors and heroes opposed cooperation in that capacity. The corporal immediately surfaced and persuaded Denisio's jumping companion, who was with him, to participate in the work to save Denisio. Not totally all right with this, the companion concluded it was vital. Mindful of the peril this salvage mission presented, he followed the corporal into the cavern with other salvage jumpers. They advanced down to the cave with breathable air. Seeing a well-disposed and recognizable face advanced the circumstance extraordinarily. By that midday, the corporal chose to quiet Denisio on the grounds that there was simply no time left, genuine acknowledging it was the best way to get him out alive, and something like 24 hours subsequent to entering the cavern, Denisio at last arose, joined by the corporal, the salvage group, and his companion. With Denisio safe, they needed to get back to recuperate Ricard's body. Denisio turned into the main jumper in Spain to endure such a mishap. After the media consideration settled, the corporal started a careful examination to comprehend the reason why the do finished. Unfortunately, he directed a 3-year examination concerning the occasions, presuming that Ricard passed on due to hypercapnia, a condition where there's a lot of carbon dioxide in the circulatory system, which can be deadly as found for Ricard's situation. The report featured that the two jumpers missed the mark on vital preparation and faced unnecessary challenges, particularly plunging without string establishment tails spread during the examination. Recommending Denisio obligation or an absence of help to respect anyway, the report explained that Denisio attempted 2 times to save a card recorded on their plunge PCs. Denisio didn't have any desire to remark on the occasions, as those included consider the frightful situation that unfolded in the cavern in 2014. It's a chilling sign of the delicacy of life and the slender line among win and misfortune, stressing the significance of involving a rope for cave jumpers to guarantee a protected return. Well, envision that you are even with obscure difficulties. Like Denisio and Ricard, what do you believe is the way to guaranteeing a protected return? Share your contemplations in the remarks underneath, and remember to hit that like button in the event that you track down this experience as charming as we brought in for additional grasping stories. What's more, bits of knowledge and recall, the investigation of our reality is an excursion loaded up with both miracle and watchfulness. Until next time, stay inquisitive and jump securely.